Let's look at something called rational numbers. Rational numbers. So what essentially is a rational number is it's actually a fraction. Let's give any number a and b, but these numbers a and b must be integers. That means they cannot be any number with a decimal point. So for example, 22 over 7, this is a rational number because 22 is a whole number and 7 is a whole number or integer. So let's look at some examples. For example, let's look at a case of rational number. So let's have 1/4, 3/12, and 5/20. So these are all what we call equivalent fractions. Why are they equivalent? So actually 3/12, you can express it into other terms. 3/12 equals to 1 times 3 over 4 times 3, right? Because 3 is 1 times 3, 12 you can express it as 4 times 3. So it's also equals to 1/4 times 3/3, because this is the multiplication, you can split it up. And if you see 3/3, it's actually 1. It actually gives you 1. So it gives you 1/4. And 5/20, you can do the same process and you realize that it will eventually come down to 1/4. So 1/4 is actually what we call the simplest form or the lowest form of the fraction. So since the lowest form or the simplest form of these three numbers are the same, we can call them equivalent fractions. So let's see how we can do the addition and subtraction of rational numbers. So to do that, let's do an example. Let's have example 3 3/4 plus the negative of 4 1/5 example. So how are we going to solve this problem? We are adding a negative number. So what we can do is first let's take the whole numbers to a side. So it's 3 plus minus 4. So these two are the whole numbers. And then we have the fractions on the side. So it's plus 3/4 plus minus 1/5. So this first row is equivalent to second, just that we have put the whole numbers on the left and the fractions on the right. So from here you can solve. Here is minus 1, but the tricky part is here where 3/4 is 3/4 and this is 1/5, and they have different denominators. How do you add them together? So what you have to do is actually you have to multiply each other by the denominator. For example, 3/4, you have to multiply by the denominator of the next number, which is 5. So it's 3 times 5 and 4 times 5. This number is equivalent to 3/4 because as we have seen here, it's just equivalent fraction. So there's nothing with that. And then let's put the minus out this time around. And then minus 1 times 4. 4 is the denominator of the other fraction, and 5 times 4. So what this results is minus 1 plus 15/20 minus 4/20. So since the denominator is the same right now, we can then add them together. So it's minus 1 plus 15 minus 4 is 11/20. And the answer you get will be here minus 1 you have to convert again, become 20/20. 20/20 is 1 plus 11/20. So 11 minus 20 this time, you'll get a negative number, which is negative 9/20. So this is how you get the answer. Let's now look at multiplication. So the rule of multiplication, let's use an example. 2/4 multiplied by 5/6. It's quite straightforward. So you just take the top number, 2 multiplied by the 5, over the bottom numbers, 4 multiplied by 6. So you get the answer like 10 over 24, and you would want to express this in the simplest form for your final answer. So you divide by 2 on the top and the bottom. So you get 5 over 12. So this will be the answer in the simplest form. So division is a little bit more different. So let's take the same numbers again, but this time it's a divide. 2 over 4 divided by 5 over 6. So what you have to do now is to change this into multiply, and how you do that is 2 over 4. This time around you multiply by the inverse or the inverted number of the second fraction. So this time you invert it, is 5 over 6. So this number equals to this number, and it will give you something like 12 over 20, and in the simplest form you get 6 over 10. Or you can reduce this even further, it's 3 over 5. So this is the answer in the simplest form. So even if it's a full number, so what happens if 2 over 4 divided by 3? So you have to invert 3 as well. And how do you invert 3? So 2 over 4, 3 is essentially 3 over 1. It's the same thing. So you have to multiply, invert it, becomes 1 over 3. And the answer you get is 2 over 12, which is equal to 1 over 6 in the simplest form. So this is multiplication and division of rational numbers. For this last part of the video, we are going to look at something called real numbers. So we have looked at integers, and integers are whole numbers, and they can be positive and they can be negative. We have seen that. And we have looked at rational numbers. So rational numbers can be whole numbers, because if 3 is 3 over 1, which is a rational number as well, and it can be fractions. Again, this can be positive and can be negative as well. So you have to take note that actually integers are actually part of rational numbers. So integers are also rational numbers. So right now we look at numbers such as pi. So a lot of times people say that pi is like 22 over 7, or they even give a decimal point like 3.1415. So these are actually just approximations of pi. And pi is actually a number, that doesn't terminate. So it's an infinite decimal points, and it is non-repeating. So where do we group numbers like this? So we call them real numbers. So real numbers includes everything from integers to rational numbers, and even numbers like pi, where it's infinite and it's non-repeating decimals. So a lot of times we are asked to express a fraction in decimal points, for example 23 over 7. So how do you do that? So what you do is actually you take 23 divided by 7. So what you get is 3, 1, 2, you get the leftover, 20, you get 2, 14, and I get 6, and so on. So it's 3.2 something. So a lot of times when you're asked to express a fraction in decimal points, this is how you get your decimal points. So this is just a side note from the topic, and this is about decimal numbers, but you have to remember that real numbers is the master group of all these numbers, and rational numbers is a subgroup of numbers, but it's a master group of integers, and integers are the subgroup of both rational numbers and also real numbers.